Gonna make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So excited. Peanut butter and jelly. Peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Okay. Love me some PB&J. Delicious. Okay, I can't wait to eat this later. Excellent. Take this peanut butter and jelly sandwich to the office for lunch. It's gonna be delicious. Amen. Hello, my name is Father Jacob Rouse, and I'm the pastor of Notre Dame Parish in Cresco, Iowa, and this is my second to last Corona Minute ever. And I'm choosing this topic of annulments because I'm just going to say right now, this is one of my three most important videos I've ever made. The first one being Intercommunion is a difficult topic. It's a video about how the Catholic Church is not only not exclusive when it comes to not letting non-Catholics approach the altar for communion, but it's actually very considerate of your personal beliefs. Second video in my most important list is That's the Wrong Formula, and it's a video about how easy and good confession is. I'm going to link those, and I would ask that you share, if anything, just these three videos of mine. So first off, before we get into what an annulment is, I want to talk about why there's so many rules in the Catholic Church. Why do we have so many rules? Shouldn't we just be loving each other? Well, I like to use the analogy a very wise priest friend of mine taught me, is that if you go into a bank and say, okay, this is a great place, it's a place of support and love, and I want to go back to the vault. I want to count the money. I want to do all this. I want to do, it's like, no, you can't, sir. You don't work here, you know? And it's not that you don't work in the church, it's that there's rules around these things because it's important. In the same way, if I went to a hospital, just walked in and then wanted to go watch a surgery or wanted to hang out with the surgeon as he's doing work, or wanted to distract him while the anesthesiologist is trying to either wash their hands or keep the person alive. It's because there's so many rules and guidelines because this stuff is important. Our eternal souls, the body and blood of Christ, how important marriage is. So basically, that's what you can say to someone when they say, why does the Catholic Church have so many rules? Say, well, because it's all important, you know? So we have the Code of Canon Law. Obviously, this huge guy right here is basically, the Code of Canon Law is all the different codes, canons, you know, of everything from how to accept donations, monetary or otherwise, or, you know, how to properly take care of the Eucharist. Then I took a whole class on annulments, canon law, and marriage. This is all of it. So this is going to be just a basic primer, just a basic intro to what annulments are, because I know it took me this whole semester and then years of seminary and priesthood to finally figure it out. So be patient with yourself if it seems like a frustrating thing. You're going to make me go through months and months of dragging up old bad memories and pay lots of money. Well, there's a reason for it. So first off, marriage. The only thing that can end a valid marriage is death. Period. That's the only thing that can end a valid marriage. An annulment technically doesn't end a marriage because basically an annulment is an investigative process which goes back to the time of consent, to the time of wedding and prep leading up to it, and finds one or multiple missing ingredients. What are the ingredients for a valid marriage? Well, quite simply, matter and form. Remember, I made a video about matter and form. I can be down there too. Matter is the mutual self-giving, and the form is the mutual self-acceptance of that gift. So a valid Catholic marriage has 4 elements. 1, the spouses are free to marry. That means they are not bound by marriage to anyone else. That means they're of a good age. That means they have all their reason. That means, once again, freedom to marry. So when I ask the couples, if as they're getting married, as they're starting wedding prep with me, I say, have you ever attempted or entered a contract of marriage before? And for instance, if they said, no, I haven't. Well, there was that one time in Vegas in college, and, you know, we got hitched at the chapel by Elvis, you know, but that doesn't count. Yes, it does. Because marriage is so important. If you did it when you were young and dumb and didn't really think anything of it, because the church has such a respect for the bond of marriage, that is still a valid marriage, and we need to free you up from that. So then we'd go back and do an annulment process for that. Okay, spouses are free to marry. They must be free. They must exchange their consent freely. Exchange their consent freely. Say, I am giving my body, soul, and mind completely to you, and you are doing the same. In consenting to marry, they must have the intention to marry for life, to be faithful to one another, and be open to having children. So a valid marriage that says, we never want to have kids together, that is not a valid marriage. And then finally, their consent is given in canonical form before a priest or deacon and 2 witnesses. The whole reason we have the whole big, best friend competition of who's going to be the best man and maid of honor and everyone else, really all you need is 2, the best man and the maid of honor, because those are 2 witnesses. You could technically get married, not privately, because no marriage is technically private. Priest, couple, 2 witnesses. That's all you need. So freedom to marry, free exchange of consent. Consenting to marry, they have the intention of doing it for life and be open to children, and their consent is in the church in canonical form. So if you're attaching conditions, if you say, I love you forever, but if you snore, that's going to be a deal breaker. Or if you cheat on me, that's going to be a deal breaker. Or if you smoke, no, everything is out on the table, complete freedom. So before we go any further, I haven't had lunch yet, so I'm really hungry actually. So I'm going to eat this peanut butter and jelly sandwich that I made earlier. So excuse me. Wait a second. This is not a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. There's no jelly on here. It's just peanut butter. Uh-oh, better rewind the clock and go back and see what ingredients are missing. So, this marriage, or this sandwich, is a marriage. 2 people coming together. Great, it's a marriage. Perfect. Let's have children and celebrate the rest of our lives. But let's say we get divorced someday. We get divorced. Okay? This sandwich still exists. It is still valid until proven otherwise. So what we're going to do is you can rewind to the beginning of this video and see what ingredient is missing. It's obvious because it's such a simple analogy. But what we would do is, through a series of questions and a whole bunch of documents, like I said, I know there's a lot of documents and a lot of work to do, but it's because it's so important. So it asks you your name. It says things like, talk about your dating. Talk about what it was like. Was there any alcohol abuse? Was there any physical or verbal abuse before or after? Did you cohabitate? Is there any unusual behavior? Was their view of marriage as presented by their parents, was that completely trashed? Did they have a bad example of parent? Why did the marriage end? Please describe if you both planned on having children. And then I become basically like the lawyer and advocate, and I try to find as many reasons as I can this marriage did not exist. So, for example, let's say the jelly is the fact that the woman did not ever want to have children, and she lied about it at the day of the marriage. So, by virtue of all the things that go into a valid marriage, that's number 3, that marriage does not exist because all the ingredients were not there. And so what an annulment is not a long, painful, paperwork, expensive process. What it is a healing process. I've walked through with many people through annulments, and even if it's 10 years ago or 30 years ago, it still is a really healing process that brings some of those wounds and all that ugly stuff up. Yes, it does. But then to be able to finally say that, give you the freedom to say, yeah, he treated me so bad, and that was not real marriage, and now I'm seeking marriage for real with someone who truly loves me. Doesn't mean that your children are illegitimate. They are still your children, and they're still from that bond, and so that doesn't affect it at all. But that's probably one of the biggest fears, is that people are afraid of this because it's going to take too long. It's dirty details, and my children, what do I tell them? What do I think about them? Well, now, once you go through an annulment, you will be free to marry. There's a few annulments I'm working on right now that they want to marry each other. And so this is the step to becoming free. If your spouse dies and I have a death, or if your ex dies and I have a death certificate, then that counts as an end to that marriage. So I hope that answers a lot. Like I said, there's a lot more details and flow charts of, is this a valid marriage? What does this need to do? Like, so it's a big, long thing with a lot. It's very complicated, but I think it's fascinating. So this video, Intercommunion, and the one about confession, those are the 3 videos that if you were going to share or even watch anything that I've ever made, I would want it to be these, just because these are some of the most heaviest things that I get questions about, and they're also tough issues. So I hope that helps. I hope that helps you understand a little more, or if someone in your life asks you what the heck the Catholic Church is all about. And believe it or not, all these 3 most important videos are, guess what, about sacraments, which are pretty much my favorite thing. So got one more very exciting surprise video for you tomorrow. I think you're really going to like it. And I've had a great time with you guys. So go wash your hands.